All right, can you summarize what we've done so far? First, we tried to understand why we are doing the project. Then we created a list of stakeholders. We created the stakeholder register. And then we went and checked the expectations of the customer and other stakeholders and created the scope and quality of our product. And when we thought about the scope of the product, the main thing that helped us understand the scope is the work breakdown structure. That's a hierarchy of building elements of our product. Now, what happens is that we can show that hierarchy as a list, and here we will have different nodes of our work breakdown structure, and each of them is a small piece of product. Now we can start thinking about how we are going to create those pieces of product. And to do that, for each of them, we are going to need a few activities. For example, think of a fireplace inside the shelter. We're going to need some material, then we're going to build it there, isolate it, and other things like that. So we create activities for all of those, which are the how part. And then while we are there, we can also start thinking about when we need to do each of those things. For example, when it is time for you to build the fireplace, you really like to have the material ready. Okay, so in here, that's where we think about the sequence of those activities. And to do that, normally what we do is that first we estimate the duration of those activities, and then we create relationships between those activities. For example, the material for the fireplace has to be done before we start building the fireplace. That's the type of relationship that we have. And based on that, our software will calculate the start and finish date of all those activities. And how it works is something like this. Let's think of those two activities, for example, buying the material and building the fireplace. We have the durations, 5 days and 8 days, and the relationship. Now, if we imagine that the first activity starts on day 1, then we will have the start date for that. What will be the finish date? That's easy. The estimate was 5 days, and therefore it will be day 5. So far, so good. And then we have the relationship. So when are we going to start the other activity for building the fireplace? That's going to be day 5. That's when the first activity is finished. And what's going to be the finish date? That would be day 5 plus 8 days, which is day 13. And that's how it is done in a very simple way, obviously, because we have more complicated things. But you don't have to worry about that because that's usually done in a piece of software. So we estimate and capture all those data, create this list, and the main output is the start and the finish date. That's the when. And something that is very important for us here, do remember the conversation that we had about purpose. The amount of detail that we have in this list is very important. When you have more detail, you have to spend a lot more on creating the whole list. That takes a lot of time. And also to maintain it throughout your project, because these things have to be updated. Now, what most people think of the relationship between the amount of detail and the effectiveness of the plan is that when we have more detail, no matter what, it will be more effective. That's not really the case. What happens in reality is that there's an optimum. And what is your optimum? It really depends on many things. It depends on other domains in your project, because you're not only working on this one, which is mainly about time. And if you imagine different domains in your project, then your whole project management system is only as good as your weakest chain. And therefore, if you keep improving another chain, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really help. For example, if your cost management is not done well, then it doesn't matter how you manage your schedule. the whole project management system will not be better than before. So what we have to do is to find the weakest chain, improve that, and then there will be another weakest chain. We will work on that. All right, so this is what we create, and it's called the schedule or the schedule model. And that's another domain that we have here in our whole integrated system, schedule time. All right, so when we talk about time, we automatically think about cost. That's going to be our next lesson.